Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, do we have a fun one in store for you today. We've got an interview with Russ Ballard, a member of Argent and a prolific songwriter. He's written songs like You Can Do Magic and God Gave Rock and Roll to You, America, Kiss, some of the greats. In this interview, we get the backstory behind these hits and also a little sneak of a Ringo Starr record that was never released. These hits, these are the ones that they form the music industry. They create this sound that we are now creating. This is the guy that originally did it. We get the opportunity to ask him these questions to figure out what was the ethos of these songs, this production, how does he make it? You guys are going to love this. Stay tuned for the full interview. It's only about 30 minutes. You're going to love it. Russ Ballard, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. We are joined today by Russ Ballard, a legendary singer, songwriter, and producer who has written music across multiple generations. Your early days with Argent, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, songs with Rainbow, Santana, America. You've done the gamut. You know this industry inside and out, and you know how to make a song absolutely undeniable. And we're so excited to have you here. So thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Well, it's my pleasure, Dallas. Yeah, I'm good. I feel good. Thank you.
I'm so glad to hear it. Well, let's jump right into some pieces about your album that you have coming up this weekend, coming out on the 25th. You've dropped a couple songs off of it. We've seen some sneak peeks and whatnot. This one was written during lockdown. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, that was songs from the warehouse. Yeah, half of it was written in the lockdown, and half the songs that I've written since. Yeah, I've always got lots of songs happening somewhere, and there's always bits on the drive. So I can always find things off the drive. So I'm always writing.
Oh, that's cool. How did the pandemic affect your recording process? Do you found that it made you hyper focus in even more and able to focus on the songs themselves? Or did you find that it was
Very similar life for me. I'm always in the studio, and I'm always going into the studio anyway. So it wasn't that much different to me. The only difference was seeing so many people walking around where I am, where I live here. There's so many bridle paths and footpaths and families walking around. I always used to wonder why we've got all these estates around here of houses, people, but you don't see anybody. Suddenly in the lockdown, there were families. It was brilliant.
Wow, that's awesome. That's such an interesting observation too of the
Yeah,
lockdown
yeah,
that it actually
yeah,
brought people together by coming out in a way.
yeah, yeah.
Did that inspire any of the music that you were coming out with, or you're seeing all these changes in society all at once?
I don't know whether I don't know. I think once I get into the studio, it's sort of I'm locked into an idea. I don't remember writing about uh, that altogether. Actually, altogether now was an Argent album. So basically, that was. But we didn't write one called Altogether now. No. So basically, it was all the same for me. I was just focused what I was doing that day.
Hey Russ, I'd like to bounce back to the Argent days a little bit. In New York City on Sunday, April 7th, 1985, WNEW-FM in New York City played God Gave Rock and Roll to You as their 2 millionth song. I think for me, that was the first time I had ever heard that track, but it certainly has grown in stature over the years, has it not?
Yeah, it's had a lot of syncs. It's had a lot of syncs because it has New York in the title. But when I wrote that, it had nothing to do. I didn't know about syncs or that kind of stuff. It was just an idea that was made up in the studio.
Have you found on that comment about syncs, have you found yourself leaning toward writing for sync music over your career, or does it just happen when it happens?
Well, that since the event of what's it called? Since the what's it called? I'm trying to think of the name of the music is being streamed, the streaming thing.
Oh, DSPs?
Yeah, since that kind of stuff, people have looked at ideas for ads, ideas for, basically just to make money. Luckily, I've had a catalog that's been pretty good, so it's allowed me to have a good life, still have a good life, even though it's not as lucrative as it once was. When songs were selling hundreds of thousands, hundreds of thousands of records. Now you have 100,000 plays and you get sort of $5, and that's a bit of a strange one, but it's a different life.
It's certainly changed the whole
It's
industry.
changed. It's changed.
It's adjusted how we all have to look at the way we pursue our own creativity, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I write anyway, even though there's not as much money in it, but there's still money in it, and I love it. But if I was, I don't know, if I thought, actually, when I started writing, I didn't care whether I made money from it or not. I think the idea was to get something of your own on the radio, or just to hear it, or somebody to say to you, "Oh, I heard you're writing songs," So I never had really big ambitions, to be honest. I just loved doing it.
Let me jump back to Argent really quick. Russ, you are the voice of Hold Your Head Up, correct?
Yeah.
And Rod Argent, we saw him in concert a few years ago with the Zombies. He said that was a song of female empowerment, but I think that works as an amazing anthem of just going after it for across the gender spectrum.
That was written by Rod and Chris. Well, we got the idea, or I say we all got the idea and said, after playing in a club, we played in a club when the Argent first formed. We went to Germany and we played in a place called the PN Club in the Leopoldstrasse in Munich. And we used to do 7 45-minute spots a night. And that was pretty tough, So we used to try to make the songs last as long as possible. But we were trying everything that we knew, all the tunes, and at weekends it was 9 45-minute spots, So we would, but it gets a band together. And one of the songs, we did the Zombies catalog, or we did the She's Not There, or we did Time of the Season, and other things like that. We were doing all sorts of things. Rod was singing I Make You Feel Like a Natural Woman as well, which was Aretha Franklin's song, or it's a Carole King song, but obviously changed the gender around. So we would do Time of the Season, and it started do 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 do. It's the time of the season. We would do that, and halfway through, when it got to the solo, we slowed the thing down and we go dang 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 dang, and Bob on the drums went da 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 do 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 do. And I was doing the dang dang. We get into a whole different ball game with it, and it used to go down really well with the crowd, but we're still doing Time of the Season. But that part in the middle sounded really novel. And so I remember Chris White, who was the bass player in the Zombies, he was with us at the time. He said, we should write a song around that, what you're doing in the middle, because it sounds really right. Dan, 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 dan. And the things that we were putting in all sorts of things in there, we had recordings of it. And lo and behold, we went to a rehearsal one day and Chris came in with this idea. I had a little reel-to-reel, little tiny reel-to-reel, before cassettes really, And that's how that came about. And he had this idea. Chris was singing it. And if it's bad, don't let it get you. He was singing this high voice. And I thought it was cool. Everybody loved it, Everybody heard it in the studio, said, that's a single. I didn't think it was a single, but yeah, it did happen.
Such a great song. Can you talk a little bit about how important the idea of woodshedding with Argent was when you were in that club in Germany? I mean, how it really brought the band together? And
well, it did, yeah. And I think it happened with most of those bands that did it a lot, like the Beatles. You can imagine that, you don't know each other that well, then you get to know each other really well in a short space of time. We chatted to the Beatles about it actually years ago when they'd just come back from Hamburg. We were in a hotel. It was a television room then in up in on the coast. They were playing Yarmouth, a place called Yarmouth. They were playing up there, and we were playing on the pier. They were playing at the ABC just before they made it in America. But they just had a big single with "Please Please Me," and "She Loves You" was just out. And I was asking Paul, because I was sat next to him, I was asking him about Hamburg, and he was saying the same thing about doing, he said, well, this is before we were doing it. It's before we were doing the German thing. He was saying that, you learn how to sort of like stretch out, play longer, and you play, certain things. There's also this kind of spiritual thing you get together, when you, I guess it's like a football team. When they play together, they get tighter or they don't. But yeah, it was it was a good time.
We're talking about these stories from back in the day here, and I love where you've gone with this new album that you have that you're releasing, because you take these songs from back then and you've reimagined them in a way. What
Yeah,
has that process been like to hear these songs that when you made them, they were the absolute top, the thing when you're in the studio back then, you're like, oh, this is it. This is how I want it to be. And then now getting all these years of experience and getting to go back into it. What's that like?
yeah. Well, I sort of made them. I had I could have taken them two ways. Either done them sort of as I did, more or less as I did the demo, so it has the same kind of chord structure and the same verse, chorus, which is how I did them. Although I added things, I added parts, made them, I elongated them, most of them. But I could have made them very, very different. I could take those songs and go in and make them totally different. I could really change them around, but I didn't. I wanted people to hear, if they're going to get that song, they'd see those songs together. I think they'd want to hear them kind of the same tunes, the same verses, the same choruses, because you get used to it. And I think I would be disappointed if I didn't hear "Summertime Blues" as Eddie Cochran did it. You know what I mean? If it's going to re-record it, he'd do it in another way, but it wouldn't be the same. But I could do it.
So you found a bit of a middle ground then, it sounds like. You
Yeah,
found
yeah,
a bit of
very
a
much.
place, a marriage of the two. Was that found through the arrangement and the structure, or was it found through the recording style? Because a lot of these songs, like you're recording to tape back then, and now we've got Pro Tools rigs and stuff like that that we're using. What was the production side of it like?
Yeah, it was all Pro Tools. We did it on Pro Tools, my son and myself. I obviously wrote the songs. He mixed everything, but he was with me in putting most of these down. Um, it was just like I had the melodies in my head. I can remember most of the words, so I mean that was easy for me to do. Um, I sort of took it in a similar way to as I made the demos or I made the original recordings.
Hmm.
I took them just sort of, I took it, sang the melody. Sometimes I changed the key a little bit. I changed a little bit of the arrangement. I might have added a bit at the end or something to make it a little different. But yeah, I think it's a nice legacy to, to do at this time of my life.
It really is. It's such a classy piece for you to drop right now too. At this, as you said, at this point in your life and your career, it's
Yeah, yeah.
such an amazing way of doing it. I love the concept that you created there.
That's great. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed doing it. And the songs from the warehouse, the new tunes, I'm really pleased with because, as a songwriter looking for ideas, the idea is to find a good story or a good title, something to write about that, you feel strongly about,
Mm.
or something that represents how you feel, or moments that you've been through, periods that you've been through before in your life. Um, Yeah, and there's things, there's always something to write about. As you get older, it's harder to write a love song so much. I love you, I don't love you, come back to me. and that kind of stuff. It's difficult, you know.
Yeah, it gets harder.
It gets harder.
Different phases of life that you're in.
But you can, you know, you can look back and you can sort of put yourself in those. You remember those positions you used to get into with girls when we were young and whatever.
RussBallardMusic.com is the website. RussBallardMusic.com is the website. I have a little German American football hat I'm wearing because Russ is getting ready to head out on tour into Germany. I want to talk a little bit more about that soon. But as far as the new album, the Hits Rewired, Russ, I mean, you could have named it Undeniable because all you got to do is put on track 2 and hear all the hit songs that you have been involved with over the years, and you can't argue against it.
No, I mean that's it. You know, people have said to me for a long, long time, Rich. You know, they said, "Why don't you record the songs that other people have done of your song?" And I say, "Well, I have done them. I either made the demo, I did the master, but you know, but you didn't hear my versions of them the first time. But yeah, it's when you're in the studio or you're on the stage, you know, you're making music. There's nothing like it, is there? It's you go to somewhere else, you know.
To give you an idea where the next question is. Next question is: you have given rise to the controversy of who is the greatest voice in Rainbow because both Graham Bonnet and Joe Lynn Turner had hits with your songs "Since You've Been Gone" and "I Surrender."
Yeah.
I think all that needs to be asked is who is your favorite singer in Rainbow?
Ronnie Romero.
The new guy.
No, he's there now. I saw him the other day. I was in Italy, and I was doing a thing up there, and he was in it. He had already played, and I said, "Are you still here, Ronnie?" And he went, "Yeah." And it came up, and we did "Since You've Been Gone" together.
Oh.
But yeah, which was great. What can you say? Really, I mean, those two guys, the first two guys, Graham and Joe, sensational technique he has, you know. So what can you say about that? They must be the two of the best. Those two guys.
I thought you were going to say Ronnie James Dio.
No, he didn't record my songs.
Oh, right.
No, had he ever recorded my songs, he'd be there.
That's the metric right there.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I did not ask you about the holy guitar. The guitar with holes. Would you be able to tell me this story? We're gonna put a picture of it up on the screen so people can see what we're talking about.
I've got it here, Dallas.
Oh, you've got it right here. Look at that. The holy guitar himself.
Yeah.
Takes a few pounds out of the situation.
It's gotta. So is it a much lighter guitar to play on stage?
Yeah. It helps. It helps if you're there for 2 hours. I'll put it there for now. Yeah, it's a lot lighter. You know, I also have a Les Paul, and after playing this, it's like carrying around I don't know, a milk churn.
Those Les Pauls are a log that you're carrying on stage.
Yeah. This is not. It's still a beautiful guitar.
Yeah. How did you come up with the concept around the holes? What's the story there?
Well, it was originally a Fender Stratocaster, and in 1968 I bought it from my friend who was in the band called Unit 4. He was in Unit 4+2, and he said, I've got this black Stratocaster. You want to buy it from me? £150. And I bought the thing, and I'd already had a couple of Stratocasters, and I said to my friend, I had the idea at the time, going back to 1968. Do you remember those aluminum chairs that were sort of had holes in them? You could stack them up. They were sort of just metal.
Yeah.
Really, really light. Could stack them up and, you know, put them around a venue and that sort. They were really light. And I said, I love the idea of having holes. You put them in the guitar, you know. And I said to my friend, was an art, you know, a very good artist. I said, Jim, do you think you could put some holes in this guitar? And he said, how do you mean? I said, you know, told him about the chairs, you know, maybe spray it so it looks like metal and put the holes in, like the chairs. And he did his own thing on it, and he cut the cutaway so the cutaway looks almost parallel, but it's not. It's different.
Wow.
But I keep telling him now, you know, I keep telling him. A lot of people ask me about that. Who did it? Who did it? And do you know, I have an Indian meal with him every 6 weeks. We go out for dinner.
Really? That's
Yeah,
cool.
we still go out now. Yeah, we still go out. Yeah, so it's good.
Have you ever had him do more than just the one, or is it just the original
Well, I
guitar?
tell you a funny thing. I did a video with Roger Daltrey years ago, and at, at Shepperton, at the studios, the film studios, and we were all on. We were all the band were on different plinths. We were on these things, these little stages, and Roger had his own stage, and I was playing this guitar, and he said to me at one of the breaks, he said, I really like the idea of this, like, you know, and he was touching it and feeling it, you know, and he said, and he had a Les Paul around his neck, and he said to the carpenter, the chippy, call them chippies, don't they? He said, George, can you see this guitar he's got? Can you do that with this? So the guy took the guitar away. An hour later, he came back with a Les Paul with holes in it, very, very similar to this. Obviously, a smaller body, but so somewhere around there's a Roger Daltrey guitar with holes in it. I haven't seen it since.
Wow.
You might
That's
have it.
awesome.
You might have it at home. Could do.
Someone's got to track down that guitar.
I don't want to scare the folks out
Oh
there.
wow, yeah.
In the mid 80s, Uriah Heep had what was one of the most underrated albums, in my humble opinion, of the decade, wrapped with a lot of incredible songs. Yours being track number 3, side 1 on that album, On the Rebound. Any recollections about being involved in this project, Mr. Russ Ballard?
No, well, I'd done it before. I'd done it, but I was trying to sort of like the guy that sang it. I can't think of his name, but he had a great voice. He sang right out there, you know. Which I look back and I think I should have done it like that. That sort of. That's why I've put it on this album. Actually, I've put that on. I tried that with Ringo. You know, I went in the studio with Ringo Starr, and yeah, we went to Copenhagen.
Hmm.
And we put about 5 tracks down, and that was one of them. And it sounded really strong. And my dad died, and we didn't finish the album, which was really, really sad. And I sort of jumped on a plane and went back home. I'm going back to 1978. But I tried it with Ringo, and it sounded amazing. And I've never heard it. I haven't heard it since. He did phone me and say, do you know where the tapes are? You know, the master tapes. I said, I have no idea. I was so concerned with getting back to see my mother. And I didn't know whether, but he did a great version of it. And I was trying to get him, you know, to sort of stretch out there, and he did. And I thought he sounded really amazing. But
There's a lost Ringo Starr album out there somewhere.
there is. They released one of the songs. They released one of the songs that we did, but we put down 5 tracks, and I know he sang. I remember he sang 4. So there's some good. I never mixed it or anything, but he sounded really strong, and the track was really rocking. You know, it was really, really great. But I don't know when that's going to come out. It was a long time ago.
A lost Ringo record.
Yeah, yeah.
So many songs that we're not even going to get to in this relatively quick interview with you, Russ. But Dallas, I know you want to ask him about the America tune.
You Can Do Magic, one of my favorite songs by America. And so been thinking about this one quite a bit. I wanted to know what the process was like. I know we talked about your new album and how you reinvented some of these songs. What was the process like back then? Because I know, I believe it was their manager reached out to you originally.
No, it was their A&R manager at the studio at the company. His name was Rupert Perry, head of A&R, and he got in touch with me and said he would like me to, could you write a couple of songs for America? And I thought, very strange, because they wrote their own songs, but they weren't writing at the time. And they hadn't had a hit for a long time. But I went back and listened to their catalogue of singles, and I always loved Horse with No Name.
Yeah.
For me, if you ask people about America, I think they'd all say Horse with No Name. They'd come up with that one straight away. On the first part of the journey, I was looking for it. Da 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 da. That whole thing was hypnotic, you know. And I thought if they could go back to something like that hypnotic feel, that could do it, you know. And that's what I did. I wrote a song and I put down the track, went into Abbey Road, played the instruments, brought the boys in, brought Dewey and Jerry in, and they just sang it, you know. And it had that. Also, we mixed it in Miami at Criteria, so it had a nice sound in there. But it was just hypnotic, and I've re-recorded it for this album because I just loved the song, actually. But it's their song. I wrote that for them.
Hey Russ, you had a big time in the 1980s. 2 more Santana songs. You gave us Winning, and then 2 years later, an album track that also was on the radio a lot. But people want to hear your take on that. There's plenty of other interviews online for you to go into. I'm interested in 1984. I spent most of my high school years pegged to watching MTV. I was a loser in that way, that I spent all my waking conscious hours watching MTV. And you had emerged. You had risen to the level of male solo star on the strength of your Voices track from the self-titled album.
Yeah.
What did being on MTV at that time do for you personally?
It gave me some muscle problems, because I was running across sand with this girl in my arm, hand in hand with this girl with a helicopter chasing me. So if you ever tried running 2 miles in sand, you know, no, I don't know what it did for me, but a lot of people, the song touched a nerve. The song touched a nerve with people, I think, you know, and I was proud of the song because it was a different kind of idea about singing about, you know, if you can see my mind, if you really look deep, maybe you'll find somewhere there'll be a place hidden behind my comedian face. You will find somewhere there's a house, and inside that house there's a room. Locked in the room in the corner, you see a voice is waiting for me to set it free, and I got the key. It was a nice idea, you know, and I thought I'd love to find more ideas that are sort of off the wall ideas like that.
Your recall is amazing.
I can remember most of the things. I can remember other people's songs as well, you know.
Russ, we're coming to you from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, where songwriters are honored and put on a pedestal. Do you have any personal history in the town of Nashville, Tennessee?
No, we went there. We passed through, and we stayed there one night years ago with Argent. And I've heard so many stories about, and I wanted to play there, but we played in the next big city. What's the next big city?
Knoxville?
Knoxville. We played in Knoxville. We played there, you know, and I'd love to come there and say, I know I've heard so many stories about Nashville. It sounds amazing.
Well, somebody from Nashville needs to have you here, send you an invite, Russ, so we can honor you.
You're lovely.
And also learn from you. Learn from one of the masters of the craft.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to do a night with Russ Ballard, I'll come over there and do it if you fancy it.
Sounds like we might have to set that up. That sounds wonderful.
Make that happen.
Maybe that would be great. I'm playing in Germany in 3 weeks, so I'm doing a 3-week tour with my band. So that's going to be a hoot. That'll be great. I love playing there. I love playing. There's Bavaria.
You'll be warmed up and ready to go. Thank you, Russ Ballard. RussBallardMusic.com.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you, and we want to wish you the best on this trip you're doing out to Germany on this tour and with releasing this new music.
Yeah, thanks, Dallas. Thanks, Rich. God bless.